Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I thought I'd do a quick little video walk around of the 2019 Mazda CX-5, which is Mazda's compact crossover SUV. And of course, there are a million compact crossover SUVs on the market. So what makes this one stand out? Well, aside from the fact that it's actually pretty good looking and not as homogeneous and generic as most crossovers are, the nose of it is very similar to what you get in a Mazda 6 sedan or a Mazda 3. In my opinion, it's one of the best looking crossovers in the class, and maybe the best looking. Your mileage may vary on that. But here's the really big news, as Ed Sullivan used to say. Mazda has hot rodded the thing up. They decided to offer the new 2.5 liter turbo engine that made its debut last year in the Ascent, which is their full-size crossover SUV, and it's now optionally available in the much smaller and much lighter CX-5, which is good news if you're somebody who likes speed. It lops about 2 seconds off the CX's 0 to 60 time, which falls to just over 6 versus about 8.2, 8.3 for the CX with the standard 2.5 liter engine without the turbo. So there are two 2.5 liter engines available now, one with and one without a turbo. So that's pretty cool. It's essentially the muscle car concept, except applied to a practical vehicle that serves as a family vehicle. Now, the bad news is that to get the new engine, you have to upgrade to the Grand Touring Reserve or the Signature trims, and they're all considerably more expensive than the regular Sport or Touring trims. Those models come only with the non-turbo 2.5 liter engine. You have to step up to about $36,000 to get the new engine, but as they say, speed is just a question of money. How fast do you want to go? Let's have a look at some other things before I close this up. One of the things that I really like about Mazda vehicles generally is that they're still very driver-oriented, and that's evident as soon as you get in the thing and take a look at the dashboard. You will see that it's actually got an instrument cluster with instruments that pertain to driving and not tangential things, not other things. You got your tach, you got your speedometer, you got your temp gauge, gas gauge, etc. Not a lot of stuff about how green the car is, what the mileage is, yada yada. Oh, and speaking of that, the mileage that's delivered by the new turbo engine is virtually identical to the mileage that you get with the much less powerful 2.5 liter no turbo engine. Virtually the same. There's about a 2 mile per gallon or so difference city and highway, which is outstanding. Other stuff that I like about the CX-5, it comes with a traditional 6-speed automatic, not a CVT and not a transmission with 8, 9, or 10 gears. It's a really snappy, great shifting transmission that doesn't try to jump up into the higher gears for the sake of fuel economy. And by the way, the thing gets really good fuel economy, so there really is no downside there whatsoever. And of course, a lot of the crossovers out there also have a continuously variable transmission, which again is a transmission that's chiefly about gas mileage. It's designed to get the engine into the optimum point in its power band for MPGs given road speed and load and so on. But it's not a particularly engaging transmission to drive, particularly when you floor it, and particularly if the engine that it's paired with is not that powerful. What will happen, as those of you who've driven CVT-equipped cars already know, is that the engine will rev right up to redline, or really close to it, which of course is the horsepower peak, and it will generally stay there as long as you keep your foot down. So you've got the engine screaming as you're trying to get going, and it makes an already underpowered or marginally powered car feel and sound even more so. I'm not a big fan of CVTs. I much prefer a conventional automatic, and I much prefer an automatic that has 6 speeds rather than 8, 9, or 10 with multiple overdrive gearing. There are advantages to that for mileage and so on, but A lot of them don't have the most optimum shift characteristics. And the other thing is they're very complicated and potentially very expensive if one of those things kaputs on you post-warranty. So there's that to consider. Now, the one thing that I don't like about the CX, and this is a Mazda problem generally, is their interface for the apps and the infotainment system. And you can see this has a relatively small screen too. The model that I'm testing here is the higher trim Grand Touring Reserve that has the turbo 2.5 engine. So this is one of the higher trim vehicles, or higher trim versions of the CX, and it's got this relatively small screen, first of all. And secondly, the way you input stuff, I'm going to try to show this to you if I can. You turn this knob, and that in turn will select whatever you want to select, and then what you have to do is push the knob to get it to do whatever you want it to do. So it's a two-step process. Now you can end run that by simply touching the screen if you want to, but as you can see, and again, I'm much taller and longer armed than most people. I'm 6'3" and I've got a really long reach. It's kind of difficult to find the buttons, which are rather small here on the bottom of the screen, and then touch them. And I'm not moving. If the car is moving, you're going to be going up and down like this and trying to do that. Now, in defense of Mazda, Mazda is about driving, and I think that their attitude is sort of what the German attitude used to be for years and years and years. People would, metrosexual car reviewers would bitch and complain about, my BMW has very small cup holders, and the Germans used to think that if you're in the car, the point of being in the car is to drive and to enjoy the drive, and drinking coffee or whatever is secondary. And I think Mazda's attitude here is the same. They understand that people want these apps and these touch screens and so on, but the real point of a vehicle like this CX-5 is to drive the freaking thing, and it is a lot of fun to drive, even with the base engine, because the handling is so good. The steering is great. It's just nicely weighted. It doesn't have that numb feeling that a lot of electrically driven power steering systems have now. And the nanny technology is minimal. You don't have to buy it. It's available, but you don't have to buy it. And most of it can be turned off. It's very much in the background. So if you're still one of the few rare birds like me that actually likes to drive as opposed to meat sack behind the wheel, and you're looking for a compact crossover SUV, I heartily endorse this CX-5 and recommend that you take a look, particularly relative to models like the Nissan Rogue, which is very, very practical vehicle, but has absolutely no guts, no style, and is about as roguish as the Pope is sexy. So, more up at epautos.com, the net's best libertarian gearhead site. Thanks for viewing, and we will catch up with you again soon.